Hi, thank you for watching this companion video for the blog Microservice for Sending Email using Twilio SendGrid Email API. This is part 1 of 3 of a series. Let's start by going over the architectural diagram for this blog post. Most organizations or enterprises today need to send emails. These can be transactional, promotional, or any other type of email. On the left side of this diagram, we have enterprise applications that trigger email events. Email events are JSON objects, and they can either be sent to an SNS topic or dropped into an S3 bucket. From there, the process event lambda picks up the event, parses the JSON object, and then reformats it and puts it in the request folder of the S3 bucket. Any JSON objects put into the request folder of that S3 bucket trigger an event that calls the make API call lambda. The make API call lambda actually calls the SendGrid APIs to execute the send. This microservice using serverless technologies is cost effective and can scale up or down to meet spiky outbound email demand. Let's see how to spin it up. From the repo linked in this blog, go to the code button and either clone the repo or download a zip file. I'll download a zip file, expand it, and then open it in my code editor. I see that I have a few lambdas, some lambda layers, and some sample email JSON objects. Let's open a terminal window. And the first thing we need to do is expand those layers. These are helper modules for our solution. So we'll cd into layers, SendGrid, Node.js, and then we'll just run an npm install. Then we'll go up a couple directories and go to the layers for Nanoid, which creates unique IDs. We'll run npm install here as well and continue. We'll assume that you already have a SendGrid account and API key set up. Here's a screenshot. We'll need your API key ID as well as the API key, and we'll install that in our code base now. Open the template.yaml file. This is our infrastructure as code template. And we'll look for SendGrid underscore API key. We'll put the API key ID here and only do this for testing and simple POCs. Use AWS parameter store or secret managers for production codes. Really don't ever store your credentials in code like this. So we just entered the API key ID, and then we'll search down further in the page under SendGrid API, and this is the actual API key. So that's what you'll enter here. Enter your key and then save this file. This template comes with an alarm topic as well. If you search for some-email in the code base, you'll come to an SNS topic. Now this is a topic that gets triggered whenever there's an error in one of your lambdas. So if there's a malformed JSON object or something like that, you can get notified right away. Enter your email address here if you want to subscribe to this SNS topic and receive alerts in real time. Okay, with that file saved, we can go back to our terminal and run the following commands. We'll start with sam build. That prepares everything to be deployed. Once that finishes, you can run sam deploy ---- guided and then include the stack name as well. You can copy and paste this command from the blog post if you like. So we'll go ahead and run that command and actually build our resources in AWS. The name for this stack has been set already. Select your AWS region, and then you can select the defaults for the remaining options. Once you go through that, the stack will actually begin to deploy in AWS. We'll go ahead and speed up the time it takes, but it only takes a couple minutes to deploy completely. Once done, you can go over to AWS CloudFormation in your AWS console and see that that service has been deployed. Now we'll go over to Simple Notification Service, SNS, which was just newly deployed, and we'll click on the topics link there. There's 3. And then we'll select the topic for outgoing mails. This is where email event triggers are sent. So we'll select this one, and then we'll say publish message. So essentially we're able to easily publish messages into our flow. We'll copy this simple JSON object, paste it into this SNS GUI, enter our verified from address, and then also the to address of your choice. This is a temporary email address that I'm using. Also notice here that we include categories and custom arguments. These are for tracking later. Certainly best practices to include these in all your email sends. So we have some categories, we have some custom arguments, and then we can go ahead and publish this message, and that's going to kick off the flow that we went over in our initial diagram. So first of all, you should get an email right away to that desired email address, and then we can go check the other services. We'll start with S3. We'll look at the S3 bucket that we created, Twilio, SendGrid, outbound emails, and we can go ahead and click in there and see what we can find. And in that folder, we have requests and responses. So requests were created by that SMS topic that got processed. There's the ID created by the process Lambda. And we can open that up and see what it looks like. These are the parameters that we put in to the SNS topic, plus some ones that were added. So if you go through the code for that process Lambda, you'll see all that you can do, and some of the best practices are recommended for sending email outbound with the SendGrid email API. So that was the request, and that actually was sent to SendGrid, and then also included will be the response. So we'll go back up a directory and click on responses, and responses are separated by the code they get back. So 202 would be an accepted success code, and we'll open that up, and we'll see that this was accepted, but also importantly we see the X message ID that's used to track email addresses as they go through the SendGrid system and get events generated. So you'll certainly want to record that as well. So to recap, we spun up a microservice that enterprises can use to handle email events triggered by enterprise applications. They can go into an SNS topic or into an S3 bucket. They can add the proper configurations that your organization needs in the process event Lambda, and then store a copy of those requests to an S3 bucket, which is great for compliance and archival purposes. And from that request bucket, the Lambda make API call actually triggers the send to SendGrid. The response from SendGrid is also saved into an S3 bucket. Additionally, the response is sent to an SNS response topic. Now, this is important because that X message ID returned with the response links emails and email events back to your initial request. So you can handle that by saving it to a database or some other data store in your system. This blog gave you a foundation on how to send out outbound emails using SendGrid Email API. Part 2 of this blog series covers event webhooks and how you can track engagement events generated by these emails. Thanks for watching.